Yo. Premier League predictions 24-25. I can't believe this time has come round so quickly. I can't. I mean, it only seems 2 minutes since I did my last one, so I tried so hard not to laugh. I just can't take myself seriously in these. I just can't. If you've ever seen these glasses before, pixel glasses, very nice. But yeah, Premier League predictions 24-25. Can't wait to get into it. I had a week off because I was in London last week. I'm just gonna ruin the surprise. There will be a vlog out next week at some point. First ever vlog I've done on this channel. Where it's not. Do you count the football ones as vlogs? You kind of do, don't you? But yeah, this vlog, it's going to be very good. Well, I hope you enjoy it, so tune in for that one. Anyway, let's get into my Premier League predictions 24-25. So, 20th. Ipswich Town. Now, in the past, I've been optimistic about teams like this. Ipswich, obviously, doing well under expectations last season. Only just been promoted from League One, and they just absolutely burnt everyone. Kieran McKenna has stayed at Ipswich, and I think that is the correct decision. Will they stay in the Premier League, though? I don't think so. I'm just going to be realistic for once. I don't think Ipswich are staying in the Premier League as much as I want them to. From what we saw last season from Luton, they gave a good fight, but it just didn't happen. They didn't stay up. And I think that's going to be the same thing around with Ipswich this season. I don't think they're going to stay in the Premier League. They've got good players. Leif Davis, Connor Chaplin, George Hurst. They had Amari Hutchinson last season. I think he's gone back to Arsenal. I don't know if they signed him on a permanent, but I don't think Ipswich are going to stay in the Premier League. 20th. '19th. Forest, Nottingham Forest. I think this season is the end game for Nottingham Forest. It gets bad when your best player is Chris Wood. Yeah, that's when it gets bad. But Nottingham Forest have survived 2 seasons in the Premier League so far. I think this one is their last, if I'm really honest, because they didn't look that good last season. They nearly got relegated. If it hadn't have been for Luton, they would have been relegated. I think this season is their last, if I'm really honest. Yeah, it gets bad when your best player is Chris Wood. But I do think that Nottingham Forest will go down next season. The new manager, I think, new manager, Nuno Espirito, I think. I don't think he'll be able to keep them in the Premier League. I think they will go down. I just don't think Nottingham Forest have a very good chance of staying up next season, if I'm really honest. '18th, Southampton. I've tried to be as nice as I can with this one, but I just don't think that Southampton are going to stay in the Premier League. The only players that I know from this squad are Bella Kotchap, Sulemana, and that's literally about it. I don't think Russell Martin is keeping Southampton in the Premier League. I think they're going to get laughed out of the Premier League, if I'm really honest. I honestly thought Leeds were going to get promoted to the Premier League, but they didn't. Obviously, Southampton's fortunes were lucky that day. Adam Armstrong, obviously, a very good player. He got them through to the semi-finals of the Championship playoffs and then got them through the final and into the Premier League. But I just don't think Russell Martin can keep Southampton in the Premier League. Now, 17, Brentford. Over the last couple of seasons, Brentford have been mediocre to average, and it's normally been like a 16th, sort of 15th, 16th mid-table. I don't think, have they finished mid-table yet? Obviously, they've sold David Raya on a permanent contract to Arsenal. They could be losing Ivan Toney to a big club in the Premier League this summer if he wants to go. I think he does want to go. You've got, obviously, Brentford. Yeah. They came up to the Premier League with a team that nobody thought would stay up, and it has. But I just don't think... I think Brentford will stay up, but I think they'll struggle. Now, 16th, Wolves. Yeah. They've signed a couple of new players this transfer window. Not sure on who they are. But they have sold Kilman to West Ham. And there's so little squad depth in that team. Gary O'Neill is obviously their manager. He was sacked from Bournemouth at the start of the summer last summer. And, well, wrongfully sacked because he did a great job. And he kept Wolves up in the Premier League, but I think they're going to struggle this season. They've struggled every other season for like the last 3 seasons. Since the loss of Ruben Neves and obviously the downfall of... what's he called? Jimenez, that's it. Obviously the downfall of Jimenez since his injury. Gian Martino has left the club, I think. You know, there's a big void to fill. Pedro Neto is still on fire, but there's a lot of squad depth that's not there. Rain Nori, he's a half-decent player, I'd say. Obviously, Nelson Semedo, he's still at the club from Barcelona. But some of the players are mediocre to average, and I think they're going to struggle quite a lot this season. Now, 15th, Leicester. I think they're staying up. With the squad they've got, I think they're staying up. Jamie Vardy's still on fire at the age of 37-38. Mavididi, he was excellent last season. I just think they've got a really good chance of staying up. Obviously, Enzo Maresca left the club for Chelsea, which was a really bad decision to make because Chelsea are crap. But I do think that Leicester will be very good next season. Obviously, if they'd have kept Enzo Maresca, they would have been even better because they literally went down from the Premier League and got promoted straight up again. And I think Leicester can stay up if... I don't know who their manager is currently. I don't know the details on that. But if their manager keeps them up this season, that will be a great achievement. And if they get where I predicted them, that will be an even better achievement. I do think Leicester are going to stay up. "14th, Everton." Let's be honest, they're never going to get relegated. It's not going to happen, is it? Spurs have got a more likely chance of being relegated. I mean, anything could happen with Spurs. But 14th, Everton. Amadou Onana has left the team, which is a big blow to the squad. But they do still have the likes of Jared Branthwaite, who I don't think is leaving. Pickford is going into his 6th or 7th season at the club next season. They've got a half-decent squad. I don't know how they've been doing in pre-season. They've not really signed anyone so far. They've signed someone on loan. I think he's got like Jorgensen or something like that. But yes, they haven't made a lot of signings so far this window. But I think they're going to get 14th finish. Since Sean Dyche came into the managerial job at Everton, he's done a pretty good job. Let's just say that. So Fulham 13th. I did not expect them to stay in the Premier League for as long as they have. They'd normally get relegated and go back to the Championship in their first season. They have sold João Palhinha to Bayern Munich, which was on the cards for a pretty long time. They have got some of the players, though, of the likes of Iwobi, Bobby Decordova-Reid, Munoz. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be just okay. Obviously, you've got Emil Smith-Rowe, who's just signed for Fulham, which is a good deal for both Emil Smith-Rowe and Fulham, because Emil Smith-Rowe, let's be honest, just needed game time, and he wasn't getting that at Arsenal. So he signed for Fulham, and I think he will start most of the games. They did have, I don't see how this is relevant, but they did have Armando Broja in the squad last season. He did little to nothing for them. But I think next season will be a good season for Fulham. So, 12th, West Ham. They have signed Max Kilman. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, they signed Max Kilman, which I think will pay off because he's a very decent player. He showed that at Wolves last season, and I think he will going to be a great player at West Ham. Jared Bowen, obviously being probably their main player of the squad. They've got also Mohamed Kudus as well, Thomas Soucek, Areola, obviously as the goalkeeper. I think they did a half-decent job in the Premier League last season. They were close to beating Liverpool. They beat a lot of good teams. After obviously getting Europa League from getting into the... Obviously winning Europa Conference League, they got into the Europa League, got knocked out with that. I mean, who needs Declan Rice? Who needs Declan Rice when you got Jared Bowen and a lot of very good players? They dealt well after losing Declan Rice to Arsenal, and yeah, I think they're going to be decent this season. 11th, Crystal Palace. Now, Elise has left the club to join Bayern Munich. Why is every twat joining Bayern Munich? Like, what is so special about Bayern Munich? I mean, they're one of the best clubs in the world. But yeah, they still have Eze. But I'm going to focus more on the manager for this one. Oliver Glasner, the performance he put up as a manager for Crystal Palace at the end of last season was admirable. What a manager he was at the back end of last season. Very, very good manager. So underrated. He beat the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United. Very, very good at the end of last season. Very, very good. Could have beaten Man City, but Man City just a juggernaut, so they don't really matter. But yeah, Crystal Palace, they're going to finish at least in the top 11. So, I really don't know. But 10th Brighton. I don't know why I've put them so high up, because they didn't do that well last season. Obviously, after losing Alexis McAllister to Liverpool and Caicedo to Chelsea, yeah, they've lost a lot of good players. Cucurella, obviously, didn't do great in his first season at Chelsea. Lost Caicedo to Chelsea. And they lost McAllister to Liverpool. Probably the best decision Brighton have ever made. But they have a new manager. De Zerbi just randomly decided to leave on the last day of the season. They have a new manager, Fabian Hirschler. I don't know where he came from, but I don't know how good he is. Let's talk about some of the players. Simon Adingra, he had his debut season at Brighton last season. They've signed Minter from, I think, Chelsea, if I'm correct. They signed, I think that's the only signing they made so far. But I could be wrong. Brighton have some very good players. Van Heck, Karamatoma was average last season, not as good as it was the season before that. They obviously sold Robert Sanchez to Chelsea, who was very mediocre last season. They now have the choice of Jason Steele and Bart Verbruggen. But for some reason, I've just predicted Brighton in 10th. Now, let's talk about this one. This is a very interesting prediction. 9th, Bournemouth. I mean, you see what Iraola did at the end of last season. Well, throughout the season. He kept Bournemouth up and he did a great job. No one thought that's what Bournemouth would do last season. Solanke on fire. Zabani. What a group of players this is. What a group of players. Bournemouth achieved so much last season. Even though they didn't get in the top 10, they still achieved what they achieved. And it was a great season, great debut season for Iraola. And I think they're going to finish 9th. I really do think they're going to finish higher up the table. And they could soon maybe even get Conference League. Imagine that. This season, they could go over expectations. They could get into the Conference League. That would be amazing for Fulham. But yeah, Fulham, they're going to finish 9th. Solanke, what a season he had. I think he's going to have an even better season this season. Antoine Semenyo, very good season. Very, very, very good season. Yeah. It was, very good performances from Iraola last season. I think it was, obviously, you have to be mean to be nice, and that's what Bournemouth did with Gary O'Neill and Iraola, and it paid off. Eighth, Newcastle. We haven't really... We didn't really see... They weren't that great last season, I don't think. I really don't think they were. I think they should be aiming for at least an 8th this season. They've still got the likes of Bruno Guimaraes. Almiron was mediocre last season. Anthony Gordon was okay. They've sold Douglas Luiz to... No, that's Aston Villa. Newcastle, I don't think they've made any signings so far. I don't think they have. If I'm wrong, I apologise. Obviously, Sandro Tonali was banned from football. We haven't seen much of him yet. He might be starting this season for Newcastle, but I'm not sure just yet. Obviously, Joel Linton had a crazy season last season. Alexander Isak. What a signing. What a signing. I cannot knock that at all. But what a signing he was. But yeah, Newcastle, they're going to finish 8th. it's Conference League for Tottenham again. Tottenham are going to finish 7th. They've signed Archie Gray. They could be signing Ivan Toney and someone called Yang Min Hyuk. Yeah, Archie Gray has signed for Tottenham, which I think might, honestly, he might have a downfall. Because I don't think we don't know how he's going to perform. I mean, this is what happens when young players come to big clubs like Tottenham. I mean, you'd say big club. He might. I mean, we can't knock him yet. He's only 18. We've got to give him time. We have to give the fella time. They could be signing Ivan Toney. That is up for debate whether they will or not. Tottenham, they're going to finish 7th. It's going to be a very mediocre 7th. They've, for some reason, extended Timo Werner's contract, even though we did naff all last season. We need to see more of Jagusin. We really do. He wasn't great. I don't know, I didn't watch any Romania games, so I don't know how good he was at the Euros. But, yeah. Brennan Johnson, decent player. Obviously, they've got Maddison, who was also decent last season. 7th. Sixth, Chelsea. Yeah. So, they have way too many players. Let's be honest. They've signed a couple of players. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, Tosin Adarabioyo, Mark Guayu, and recently Jorgensen from I don't know which club. The reason why I'm putting them 6th is because back end of last season, they were impressive. They got on a bit of a run. They had gotten a bit of a run. And a lot of I think they obviously dealt with a lot of injuries last season, so they had to put out a whole different squad. Cole Palmer obviously scored in the final of the Euros. And he's been doing the same thing for Chelsea for the last year. Chelsea haven't been doing that great in pre-season. They drew to Wrexham. Who draws to Wrexham? They lost to Celtic by 4 goals. Who draws to Wrexham? They're League One. Who draws to Wrexham? Unless you're shit. But yeah, Chelsea, 6th. Fifth, Aston Villa. So, they've signed Amadou Onana, who was a pretty good player last season. They have signed Berenchea from I don't know which club. They could be signing Joao Felix. They've signed Samuel Illing Jr. Yeah, some very good players in that squad. They've obviously still got Emi Martinez, who was pretty good at Copa America. They've got a few decent players. And they've obviously got Unai Emery. Champions League football this season. Champions League football. Wow, who'd have thought it? Who would have thought they'd get Champions League football? Aston Villa. What a job that Unai Emery did last season, though. Ollie Watkins, on fire. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, he slapped most of the team's asses that Aston Villa played last season. I think Liverpool beat them once, maybe twice, but we were lucky. They beat Man City. But yeah, what a performance! What a first performance from Unai Emery after succeeding Steven Gerrard. That just didn't go to plan. But yeah, very good season, and I think they're going to finish 5th, which will be very good for Aston Villa. So hear me out this one. What the hell just happened? So hear me out with this one. Fourth, Man City. Trust me, people have predicted worst in the past. People have predicted Leicester to finish 20th, which I don't think is going to happen at all. Fourth, Man City. I'm just getting bored of them not being good, but just, oh my God, we need a new winner of the Premier League. They've signed Savinho. That's it. I don't even know who that is. He's from Girona. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a clue who the geezer is. But pre-season is the main factor. They've lost to Celtic with a half-decent squad. They've lost to AC Milan with a half-decent squad. They beat Barcelona, if I'm correct, and they beat Chelsea. But the thing is, you surely, like, Guardiola, I think, will leave in probably the next year. Surely they finish at least third this season. Arsenal are a better team than they were last season. You look at the people they've signed. Calafiori. They've got Declan Rice. William Saliba in defence. Rock solid. Could be signing Mikel Merino, which would be a great signing. So I don't think City are going to win the Premier League at all. I think they're going to finish fourth. Because you look at Man United's squad now. They did way better last season. They did way better last season. You look at Man United's squad. With Lenioro injured, that doesn't matter. Because they've still got a good squad. And then you look at Liverpool's pre-season. They've won all the games they've played so far. So you can't knock it. Man City, fourth. Third, Liverpool. So their pre-season has been brilliant so far. I'm so happy with it. They've beaten Real Betis so far, Arsenal and Man United. Fabio Carvalho, let's just talk about this wonder kid. Wow, he's a great player, isn't he? Why did we loan him out to Leipzig and Hull? He's a great player. He's what we need. We've not signed anyone yet, but at the minute I'm thinking we don't need anyone. We don't. Mo Salah has got a new look. He's now got bald head. He's taken off from Arne Slot. But Arne Slot, he's better than I thought he was going to be. Way better. I mean, just... You look at what he's done with Liverpool so far. He came into the job and people were saying, oh, he's going to get sacked before Christmas. He ain't going to do well at all. You look at how... Even though pre-season doesn't matter, Real Betis, 1-0. Arsenal, we beat them 2-1. Man United, 3-0 drubbing. I mean, tell me that isn't what we want to see. I'm happy with this already. You can't tell me otherwise. I'm happy with Arne already. I'm happy with Slot already. Slot ball is in full gear. It's in full gear. We're in full gear, and I'm getting ready for us to obliterate every single team. I'd like us to win the league, but I don't think he will. I don't think Slot will win it in his first season. Third for Liverpool, but I've got high hopes for us. Second, Man United. Now, I think Man United are going to finish second because if you look at the back end of last season, they won the FA Cup, which was a great achievement and it saved Erik ten Hag's job. They've bought Lenioro, who is now injured, but not to worry because they've got other players that can fill his part. Diogo Dalot, who has been in and out of the squad for the last couple of seasons, was amazing last season. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford was not too great. Not as good as he was the season before that. You've got Joshua Zirkzee they've just signed. I think it's a pretty decent squad. I think it's a decent squad and could get them second. They play the Community Shield in a few days' time, and I think they're going to win that. That'll be a good game to give them hopes that they're going to finish high in the table. But yeah, Man United, second. Now, champions, Arsenal. I'm giving in. Arsenal, they're going to win the league next season. They're going to win the league. They can't get any closer. They just can't. Gabriel Jesus has been very good in pre-season. I've seen a lot from him. Bukayo Saka was pretty good at the Euros. They could sign Mikel Merino. They've signed Riccardo Calafiori. Off the back of a very decent tournament for Italy. And I think Arsenal will win the league. I think they're going to win the league. With David Raya as the goalkeeper, they've signed him on a permanent contract. That proves good for Arsenal. Declan Rice, he's obviously still... He's at the club. And he was very, very, very good last season. You've got Gabriel Martinelli, a very good player at the young age he is. Mikel Arteta knows what he's doing, I can tell you that. Mikel Arteta knows what he's doing with this squad. Signing Calafiori is an absolute cheat code. I'm telling you now. Signing Calafiori is an absolute cheat code. Arsenal are going to win the league. So, a few interesting ones there, I'd say myself. But yeah, my predictions for the 24-25 season. Some interesting ones. I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, turn post notifications on, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.